Start the morning right with a cup of Vinyl Tap. Nothing beats the refreshing taste of a hot, warm mug of Vinyl Tap. Enjoy your podcast in liquid form today. Vinyl Tap. Enjoy responsibly.
2, 1.
Vinyl Tap.
I'm Jason.
I'm Jason.
I'm Jason.
I'm Jason.
And we just listened to Taylor Swift, Folklore 2020. What a year. What an album.
I mean, I agree with that statement, but like the winces clearly mean other people don't, so.
Yeah, look, I actually thought this album was great. And also, I hated some of it. But
Cool.
I didn't. I don't know. It's a weird one.
Hard to
You
articulate.
just did like a real hard backpedal on everything you said.
I loved it. I
Alright.
hated it. It was fine. It wasn't fine. I enjoyed most of it. I think it's very top heavy and then a little back heavy and the middle kind of falls off. It sags like a hammock. This is a hammock album right here.
I mean, that's fine though, right? Strong
Yes.
opening, strong ending is going to make you have the
But
appearance
I
of
got-
an overall good
I got-
album regardless.
I got rather tired in the middle. There's 16 songs on this. It goes for 63 minutes, and we all know how albums aren't the same as they once were.
Yep.
Right?
I must admit, I didn't get as tired as I did in Reputation. Like, Reputation, I got very tired. This was, I was pretty alert, pretty awake for the whole thing, personally.
Right.
It's just me.
That's all right. No, you can tell us all to go down a hill. It's privilege.
I haven't said how I feel. I like it. I think it's probably the most consistent album that she's released for a while in terms of quality across. Like, there's not like really big standout songs, and then the other songs are a bit like, well, they're fine. I think these are more at the same level across the album for the most part.
It's a vibe. Like, the whole
Yeah.
album was a vibe, and, like, it just kind of stuck to its guns, which I really, really liked. And
It's her COVID album, quite literally. It was like the brainchild of this time period. This wasn't in production before this,
Wasn't it?
as far as I'm aware. This was just her at home. A lot of it was done, like, I think there's only one video clip, which I know Tim saw on Spotify at one point. It's
There's
not
a
with her
piano
and
in the ocean.
But
That's crazy,
It was
man.
all done by her at home. This is also the first album in the new
Right.
Peepsels,
Well,
like with all the dramas.
Oh,
of the
right,
last,
the record label
contracts and the
changing
record
and-
labels. So this is the first one that she owns, essentially.
So,
Right.
for all of the poor
cool.
ignorant fools such as myself, who don't know
The drama.
right, what is the
What's
drama?
the tea?
What's the tea?
Once again,
Taylor
I
is the
probably
tea.
should have done a bit more googling to be a little bit more versed on this.
That's okay.
But from what I understand was that she signed her last contract when she was very young,
Aha.
around the 16-17 period, when
Oh,
she was
geez.
starting to get big, and
16,
essentially
17, like,
like
years old?
her
Yeah.
age.
Jeez,
Yeah.
that's a
And
lot.
so
Okay.
So that's like 14 years ago.
essentially
Right.
the
Yeah.
contract means that she didn't get a lot of it, and then something
It's
happened
the
and she
classic-
said that she was going to buy it from them. She offered to buy it from them, and then they sold it to someone that apparently hates her.
Whoa.
So someone who doesn't like her and doesn't support her, and again, not an expert on this topic, but this is my understanding of it, is that, like, she put forward an offer. There are some opinions out there that say that she didn't put forward an offer,
It was
but I think
also-
that if your entire life's work was on the line, I think you'd put
You'd
put an
probably-
offer in.
There was rumors that she was going to re-record her entire catalog
I would be
and
so
take
keen
down
for
take
a
down
re-country
all
one.
the like old masters, because she obviously owns the copyright to the
Yeah.
song. It's the copyright to the masters that she doesn't own that she wanted, and so if she re-recorded everything, she would then own the copyright to those masters, and she could potentially then take down all the old songs. And that hasn't happened, but that would be super
Whoa, wow.
interesting
It'd be a
if it did. It'd be
Huge,
so
big brain alpha personality move to do that.
That would. I
Absolutely.
actually think that would have happened.
Go for it,
if
Taylor.
That COVID hadn't happened. I imagine that COVID probably put a big.
Well,
like,
knowing that about the
on
production of
wheels.
this album reframes it in such a way that I find it a lot more impressive. That this wasn't in production until, like March of this year or something like that then.
when she
that's-
released it,
that's
it was
incredible.
Kind of like, I've
Unexpected.
done an album in lockdown. Like,
and also
here it is.
And what have you done with
I
yours?
was going to say also she's done something that Most musicians haven't. Most musicians have held off releasing things during this time because they can't tour, they can't promo it, make merch on it. Whereas
There is most certainly merch.
oh well, that's a later topic to talk about, Nicole. So she's released music, and a lot of big profile artists haven't because they're sitting on it to release when things like return to normal.
And I believe she produced a lot of it as well. Like, as in, like, I think she produced, like, the film clip. I think she's had much more of a hand on
and
this.
say in what's happening.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm very glad to see that that's the future of Taylor, because comparing this to previous but recent things that have come out of her, that's a weird way of saying that. I'm really impressed. Like, and I really am looking forward to more things that she's an extremely talented and creative person. Not everything she makes is my cup of tea, but it's great. I love seeing someone with a vision creating that as well as they can, plucking something out of their brain. It's great.
I think this and, like, so there's an album in between Reputation, which is Lover, and I think this is, like, a little bit reflective of how in love she is now. She got a steady guy. He's an actor. He's pretty good looking.
Is this like the first time in a long time?
I think she's had fairly stable relationships. It's just that, like, we once again have that male-female thing where we're really fixated on how many people our women date and less fixated on how many people our men date.
Also, the media loves to make a story out of anything.
Celebrity relationships.
And
big juice.
Like, no one is sitting there with all her exes listing all their partners up to Taylor Swift or things like that, but they're doing that with her. So, but I think you can just genuinely tell that she's happy. And this album, I think, is a real big reflection on the mistakes she's made and things that have happened to her. But there's less anger and less blame. It's kind of like you've had that grieving period and you're kind of just now reflecting on things. Especially, I had it with Peace, which I was really interested in, like, because I had this kind of little epiphany in it, that maybe what she meant by peace was the fact that her new partner is never going to have peace because her life is insane. You've now accepted a lifestyle that no one else in the world really has that equivalency of.
Maybe, but also I haven't seen any media about that. Like, from someone who doesn't avidly follow Taylor Swift, whereas I definitely saw media about other relationships. So I feel like it's not necessarily as much of a talking point for them this time around.
I think
or if
there's
it is,
no drama.
I've avoided it.
And I think that makes, like, boring press. And I think she learnt to kind of keep it a bit to herself. He is around. He's at a lot of, well, before COVID, there are very cute videos of him watching her shows and things like that as well. And I think there's there, but I don't think there's any real drama anymore because it's been going on quite a while. I think it's a couple of years now.
Right.
And I think the media's just like, well, that's not funny.
30-year-olds love each other more at 11. Like,
no one's going to care if you're, like, doing happy things and being all good with life.
yeah, that doesn't make for good press.
So that line, rain is always going to come if you're standing with me, is that talking about her partner, or did I go too meta and think that was like...
Literal rain?
Well, no, because I was thinking, like, is she also talking to...
Like in Dirk Gently.
Like...
Beeb's picking up on lyrics. What's going on?
I know.
I watched his eyebrows go up. He was like, there's a line.
I know. Look, I'm learning how
I
to
did it
listen
once
to music
too.
for the first time in my life. So,
That's the power of vinyl
no,
tap.
but, like, is she also talking to her fans? Because, like you're saying there, I mean, there's a lot of anger in some of her stuff. Peace kind of struck me as like, hey, like, this is just how it goes. Sometimes I'm going to get a lot of hate, sometimes there's going to be, and, like, if you're going to be a fan of me, this is the experience. Like,
I think there's certainly a part of that, but maybe you've gone a little bit too far.
Maybe I just went too deep.
Because
Down
she
the
does
rabbit hole,
talk
man.
about accepting, like, your brother is my brother, the family I've chosen. I think it's very partner-centric.
okay.
It's
like-
more personal than something addressing
See,
a
this
fan
is the
base.
thing
That's not
about
to
me
say
listening.
what you're
It's
saying
not
is
incorrect.
wrong.
Well,
Your
no, see-
interpretation is just as valid.
Oh, thank you. No, well, I see, this is the thing about me listening to lyrics, is that one line stuck out to me. I don't think I heard any of the other lyrics at all.
That's so crazy, given how prominent the vocals were in this album.
Yeah, I just...
It's also funny because you steered into it and tried to provide all the context for it, but you just admitted that you didn't hear anything else around it.
Well, you know what? Let's move straight on. So, okay. I'm going to just jump straight into it because there's a lot of good things. I'm going to get into the things that I didn't like because that's not too much to talk about.
That's what he likes to do. Start at the bad.
Start at the bad. So I don't even know if it's bad. The strings were fucking weird the whole way through. It was like they were run through a high-pass filter. And so they were so brittle. Basically, all of that low end got cut out of the strings and it was insane. And it kept on happening. And then like... there would be like the verses and there's like maybe a little bit of strings with like low end and then it's like, oh, there it is. It's brittle again. High pass filter, super weak sound.
So, the production on this threw me so much.
Jason's
I was
broken.
like...
He was.
Really broken for the whole thing, walking away with headphones, furrowed brow.
I saw him do this at some
I'm
point.
trying to like... So...
There's a lot to process.
I think what you're saying ties into the production on the album, which is what they... this is all speculation. I couldn't quite piece it together to be like, that's definitely happening. But they're not using texture or dynamics really, or intensity as much to like get the variation between sections. They're using production things, automation, panning, and space. And... pretty much all of the songs start just super wide. There's nothing in the middle besides the main vocal line and obviously percussion that sits there because that's just where it sits. But like the guitars and the pianos are like so much wider than what you'd expect in normal verses. And then sometimes pushed even further in choruses. And so everything has this like space, and the way they make something larger is generally fill that space with other sounds. Even if it means making the piano wider, it makes it sound more full. And so using high pass filters and low pass filters, because
that was exactly what they did with the strings, is that it was such a brittle sound, and then to give you that sense of a string section, all the same instruments were playing, but they just EQ'd it so that you could hear the lower end of the instrument.
Are we 100%
interesting.
sure that they were real strings? Like,
not necessarily.
Especially if she produces
Yeah.
this
because
at home.
we're thinking again that this is a lockdown album, and it's not like an Australian lockdown where we had very strict rules, but it is a COVID album. I'm a little
like
concerned.
real strings to me.
I was
Although if
pretty
anyone's going to
convinced-
have fake strings that sounds like real strings, it's going to be Taylor Swift, right?
If they were
So it's
fake
tough to
strings,
call.
they're
Tough
to call.
so
Yeah.
convincing.
I honestly, given from looking quickly at the producers they were working with, wouldn't be surprised if they were real and it was just the production on them.
Because there was a lot of just like, when you actually listen closely to that melodic line, there's a bit of character and flair that I think that you can't really reproduce. You know, the sort of the inconsistency in the vibrato, or the way that the line sort of tapers in or out.
Bow pressure, changing
Right, all that-
dynamic, that
right,
kind of thing,
all that
which
sort of
is very
stuff.
hard to fabricate that pressure as you move through the bow.
And if they did do that, well then, fuck.
Like, we are obsolete.
Right.
If that's been done, we're now obsolete as well. Do you think, also, Jason, do you think that they just, in order to kind of not be so dynamically different, I thought that a lot of their progressions were simply done by adding more instrumentation, that growth was achieved with incoming and outcoming instruments? Or is it just this, like, panning confusion that really bothering you?
There were bits of it, but nothing super standout. There are a couple of moments where they had big textural changes for like a cycle of the chords or 2 cycles of the chords, but and like there were sort of gradual builds. There was one song, I'm trying to find it, where there was almost no percussion, and then there was a little bit of percussion, and then the percussion, like a kick came in and it was more full, and that kind of raised the intensity towards the end. And then for the most part, because there was normally, with a lot of things, you start like kind of panned a little bit and then like go full pan for the chorus because it sounds big and wide and huge in comparison. But some of these tracks, and
Give us an example,
I'm
Jason.
really trying to find.
Let's put you right on the spot now.
Yeah.
You've got 5 seconds.
We're gonna
Example.
ask you to place yourself on a hill. We'll be shooting at you from the bottom of the hill, and you can
You do have the advantage of the high ground, so
I do.
don't try it.
come on, Jason. You have to save us before we go too deep into the Star Wars references.
Just keep speaking
Really,
out
all
for
I'm
the moment.
imagining right now
Ironic.
is the English cheese wheel race where Jason's
Right.
running
Oh,
down the
yeah.
hill chasing
That's
the
right.
So I
Yes.
only noticed this at the second
Oh, he's
half
got
and was
something.
trying to figure out. I don't. Where is it?
Well, while you look, shall we change topics a little bit?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'll let you
you'll
know
just
when I
put him
find
in
my
his own
notes.
little
Okay,
box.
so what did everybody think about the feeling of like reminiscence in terms of like decades? Did you get 80s, 90s vibes coming through? Did you get early 2000s
I actually
vibes?
did write 90s in mirrorball, like the
Yes.
90s chill vibe.
Yes.
And I put a question mark because I was really not sure if that was the correct era,
I have
but that's
some-
what I got in that
Yeah,
era.
see, I was...
Mirrorball is the song that I was looking for.
Hey!
So we're going back.
Because of the low pass filter that they used. So what section? I didn't write what section it was happening, but the accompaniment gets like a low pass filter when she says like hush, and then it kind of comes back up a bit, but the accompaniment was really muted and sounding like underwater for a lot of it.
I love that.
Is that like a mirrorball analogy? Like
Maybe, I don't know.
This is I think that it was totally intentional, and I really really loved it. Is that like there are all these things leaning to my strengths here. So the guitar effect had like this really like sweet rotary effect that's kind of that in 80s 90s kind of, if you want to have that kind of chill I don't know, recreate the Deb, like, no, what do you call it? Like the disco, like high school disco thing,
Right.
where like everyone gets together.
Like a
Prom.
blue light?
Prom.
Right, prom, there we go.
For all our
Oh,
American
debutante.
viewers.
That's
For all
what
of
you
our-
meant by Deb.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Formal?
So, formal.
There we go.
Prom for your American.
A box social.
But like the
Nanny.
rotary effect is like, that just defines that kind of era, right? That's like all of that kind of prom music has that sound. It has that kind of
Shimmering guitar.
that shimmering guitar, and it's like it's not low quality, but I guess it's a low pass filter where all of the highs and all the richness of a full tone are just cut, so it sounds like it maybe comes from an earlier time. Because a lot of the amps that are used in that music are like, they're not very rich and high end,
Are
right?
you talking about 80s?
Not like 90s. I'm gonna date this as 90s.
I'm gonna disagree. I'm gonna say that they're just set up in a way to sound that way. You're not buying like.
Okay, yeah, well, yeah, okay. You're right. I stand corrected. But they are set up like, there's a lot of music from the 90s that they cut out their high end like that.
Yeah.
Lots of mids, and this song in particular just had a shitload of that. And then everyone's laughing at me. And then
Tim and I had a moment. It's fine.
but the other songs kind of, I don't know. It felt like a very distinctive choice, and I really liked that.
Yeah.
It's
and
very like thematic.
all of me saying I'm confused by the production, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm
just
saying
want to
I want to
understand.
understand it because it's
Wants
a
to know.
Who
cool.
wants to know?
It's cool
Someone
that
from
they
their
can use
team, tell us.
production in that way to get the effects that they're doing, and I
Tay production team.
yeah.
Tell us what you did.
Yeah, Jack Antoff and or Aaron Desner, I'm calling you out.
Tell us what you did so he doesn't go insane. I have a little pivot point so we can go off this because I can't contribute to this. I'm sorry. I actually really loved this album because we return to Tay-Tay's evocative imagery. I underlined all the words because I knew I was going to lose them. So Exile has, physical fighting. We've got battleships in My Tears Ricochet. We've got, you got a broken bear, which I imagine is kind of like, the way they used to do it to stage, like dancing bears and those things like that. In Mad Woman, you've got flesh wounds and crawling off the beaches in Epiphany. We've got really evocative images.
Physical, grounded lyricism.
Yeah, you've got a physical, I guess, grounding point for the emotional turmoil she's describing, which I really enjoyed. It's a really good way of grounding your audience in what that experience was like.
tangible things and folk kind of go together.
That's exactly
as
what
well.
I was going to say. That like the whole idea of this is folklore, that we're trying to translate some like illustrious mythical being into something people can understand, right? That's what folklore is, in some sense. Get out of jail free card. Just say it in some sense, and you're good to go.
Was it also a way of like passing on knowledge, like
Yes.
storytelling, muses, that kind of thing, like, you know, a way of remembering information through.
And this
through
is
music?
this is a storybook album.
It really is. I completely agree with
Yeah.
that.
So is Taylor Swift sort of known, like, was her earlier stuff, has she always had that kind of visceral imagery in her lyrics? Or
There
is
are
that something that
certain-
she's kind of known for in some popular songs? Or
I don't think it's always present, but there are always a few lines in every album that I'm like, that is really interesting, and I really like that image. I'm not saying it's consistent. It's not something that I imagine everyone relates to who she is, especially not when she was a lot younger and a lot in her country roots. Like, there's imagery there, but it's not as sophisticated as it is now. She's in her 30s, obviously. But there are a few lines in every album where I think that's a really elegantly crafted line. And I just think that this is a really nice way of demonstrating what she is capable of. She is capable of telling elegant stories. And I think that we have that child star turning into an adult star, going through growth and, you know, who are you? What do you actually want to put into the world? And I guess now she's got obviously enough money to probably want to put things out that actually...
She can do whatever she wants. She has fuck you money.
Yeah, like she has the Rupert Grint buying a ice cream van kind of money. Like, now she can
What a hell of an anecdote.
she can do what she wants, and I think that she's also got enough of a fan following that
Yeah,
when
she can do
does,
no
that
wrong.
they're gonna love it.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
And probably with good cause, because this is really good.
On
Give
that
us some-
note, you had a moment that I wanted to find out.
Can we wait? Can we wait? Can we hear about the harmony across the album first?
Yes.
This is so much better than Reputation. This is...
Also, I think she did a lot of the backing vocals herself.
She did.
Oh, 100%.
There was one where I think in my Tears Ricochet, I think that was the first time I started to hear. I wrote it down because I was like, I think I'm hearing other backing vocals. I'm not 100% sure, but
The
that was the first
vocoder
time.
effect on the backing vocals as well. Fucking yes.
There are points in this album where I was like, that sounds like an auto harmonizer or a vocoder, but it's not. Like how you were talking about fake strings perhaps being as good as real strings. Taylor's voice is so good at blending with Taylor's voice that it can sound like software.
I'm so positive it's a vocoder on
I
that
think
track.
in
On that track,
particular
yes.
Okay.
I was just...
Okay.
So, I mean, this
While
is
we're
like,
on the
like
topic.
a production point with that harmony, though. Like, she harmonizes basically nearly every single song, and it's so understated in, like, a really lovely way. It's just back there, and it just sits there and supports the whole vocal line. It's really, really fucking wonderful.
I think a credit to that is also how wonderful and strong her vocal control is. I think because this demonstrates how good she is in the lower register as well, because we do in other albums, she has this belt, she has a stomach voice, she has that ability to hit the high registers, and it's done a lot for show, where this is so underrated in how hard it is to sing in that register and be so clear, and then to harmonize on top of that yourself and not muddle any of that it's really a credit to how far her vocal training's come.
Panning, her vocals, like lead vocals sit right in the middle, and everything else is just removed out of that so that the lead vocal just cuts through and everything else has just got its own space, kind of like moving around.
That's really interesting, because like I don't pick up on that, but
Especially, that's why
Now
I
that
was
you've
putting
said
the
it, it's very
headphones on,
interesting.
because you can get a better sense of like how far it's panned.
How far it's going.
Yeah.
Back to harmony.
Let's go back to the team. Hit us with the good stuff.
Keys. I love the first song, The One. Again, song titles are a little fun in this album. Track 7 is called 7, track 8 is August, which is the 8th month for those of you at home. So in The One, we're in C. There's no dominant function in the whole song, right? In pretty much, so most pop doesn't have perfect cadences anymore. That's not a thing pop does these days, 5-1. But there's still a 5 somewhere, usually, like to anchor the key to a tonic. This song doesn't have that. It's in C, and it has F, D minor, and A minor going to C, and that's the whole song. One of those 3 chords going to C.
Is it quite inverted as well, the chords?
Yes, it's very weak.
I was going to say there's not a lot of stable, base of the chords. I definitely get an inverted.
Actually, what's happening is, I think she was using those chords with descending bass lines, just alternating between one of those 3 chords and C, going down a C scale. And that's really interesting and clever, and that's this kind of stuff that I'm saying. I'm excited to see what else she's allowed to do now that she can have that freedom to produce her own music. Beautiful Dorian mode usage in Cardigan. She's got F minor with a B flat major chord.
There's also a little,
beautiful.
I think a wooden block thing in there that made me really happy. I got a little...
I heard that. I immediately thought of you, and I was like...
Nicole's going to mention the block.
You're going to mention the block.
Yeah. Look, we've got songs in F sharp and like D flat, like interesting, colourful keys that aren't C, like just C after C after C, and it's like that's what really drove me to tears with Reputation. And just that, only that's all it took for me to prefer this album much more, was just that it was willing to explore other tonal centers.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I think it does demonstrate that I think she's done a lot of learning in the background behind the scenes that we obviously haven't seen. And she hasn't advertised, because obviously she was a child star, and I'm not 100% sure she could have had this ability at 16, but I didn't have this ability at 16 and don't really have it now. So I think she's obviously done a bit of learning. The piano, I imagine she played herself. She does play the piano. She plays it in a lot of her shows.
She plays it very well.
So she can play the guitar. It might be her playing the guitar. I'm not sure it's 100%, but there's some beautiful finger picking that goes on in that as well. So if it's her, kudos. If not, kudos to whoever's playing it, because it's beautiful. There's a lot of skills that she's developed behind the scenes, which I would love to see that developed further, along with obviously what you're saying with these different tonal centers and where she's going with chord progressions.
Now, I've said all that, but then we get to Betty.
Here we go. This is what we've been waiting for.
So before
showdown.
Before Tim rips into Betty, because I know he wants to, there is a bit of controversy behind this. They think that her partner had a lot of involvement in this song, because it's clearly not about her.
Is that an issue? What?
No,
Why
it's
is that...
just, I'm just saying that putting context to this song is it's not necessarily 100% her.
Okay.
So
they say.
And again,
is that
not
to do
verified.
with the story rather than the music? Or?
Again, I'm not sure, but there is that input that's not the story is a lot of people have been debating.
Okay.
The story is him, so it's also a debate about how much input he's had on this song or the album as a whole as well.
I will also note that this is one song that the choruses are actually larger than the verses, which is not what was happening for the most part on the
more
album.
tropey production.
Not necessarily
Speaking of
tropey production.
tropes.
It was still super panned, but I just know that the texture got thicker and it did become larger in the chorus, which wasn't happening on a lot of the other songs. Tim?
Knowing all of the lawsuits going on with music copyright and this person stole this kind of idea from the Marvin Gaye thing with Robin Thicke. It's it's an idea. You're copywriting a mood that doesn't make sense.
Genre.
I really hope that Taylor credited Billy Joel with this song because it's just Piano Man. And doing a Disney key change in the last chorus doesn't do away with that. No, it actually hurts.
Can see here that Billy Joel is not credited.
Be careful.
So you didn't like it?
I'm sure the song's fine. I just was listening to Piano Man the whole time though, and that's a good song too. So if you're gonna rip something off,
and then it goes up a tone.
Yeah, it's actually a disgusting key change. I'm gonna say that.
I thought it was cute.
No.
But it's cheesy, but it's cute, and it fits. I think.
I'm sure it would fit the story if I had paid any attention to it. There's also a 4/4 minor 1 cadence in this song,
That's
and
nice.
that was nice. You
That's
can
nice.
you can do that, Taylor.
Okay, so...
So what is it that you like about that song so much, Nicole?
I just think
To have the inverse of what we've just had.
I think I don't have Tim's like chordal progression knowledge, and I don't have that thing, but it's really just cute, and I think I listen a lot more to the lyrics in this album than you guys do. It's a coming of age kind of song. It's about not understanding love. It's about taking a chance on like someone you've
Making a mistake from
screwed
memory,
over,
from what I
and
heard.
it's very relatable in that teenage kind of like made a mistake in high school relationship drama. And it's cute, but in terms of chords, and I didn't really pay any attention to that. I was just sitting there, especially when I first listened to it, being like, this is adorable. Like,
Yeah, so you leave that Disney key change alone, Tim.
and it's not to say that I'm blind to the fact that if that's a major piano man, like, then I'll accept that
Sing
as being a
Piano
problem.
Man next time you listen to it.
I'll sing it.
Okay, but see, on that same token, I mean, you could sing
You could
Pachelbel's
sing-
Canon to, like, literally
Yes.
No,
70%
you
of
could
all
sing
music.
Betty to Piano Man.
Or you can
It's
sing
the
Betty
same-
to Piano
sure.
Man. Like,
Go ahead.
But
maybe I will. Actually, okay, this is... I'm gonna piss some people off. So,
Go for
melodically, it's very pop. And I don't think I was expecting anything else, but also, personally, the kind of the pop, like, let's stick to triads, pentatonic, just...
The monotone rhythmic melody.
No, I actually kind of like the monotone rhythmic melody because her rhythm is fucking
Oh,
fire.
yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Rhythm
Holy
is-
shit. But just like
Spitting
the...
words.
I really noticed in Exile because... is this Bon Iver?
Yeah, Bon
Right?
Iver.
So when it's somebody else's voice, it really stuck out just like, oh, okay, so we're going to do like... Da, 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 like...
do you think that's
Fuck.
also got a bit of a folklore like root to it? I'm not saying it's not. Sorry, so many negatives. Not saying that the poppy focus isn't there, but stop laughing at me. I know I'm using negatives a lot, but do you think that when you had folk songs, the melodies weren't complicated because they were to be remembered and catchy and sung amongst other people?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not saying it's
Yes.
definitely
Anyone
a
could sing it.
constant
Simple
toy.
doesn't
constant-
necessarily mean catchy, though.
Well, see, yeah, and this is the thing. It's not... It's very...
Maybe catchy is the wrong word. Maybe like
Well,
easily,
these are-
easily
the-
rememberable.
Yeah, these are very memorable. Well, see, for me, they're not memorable.
I've
movies
forgotten that
at
song
all.
already.
I can't really necessarily remember any of these because, and this is just because I don't really listen to a lot of pop music. No, and it really is. It's that like, this has a melodic kind of structure that basically follows a shitload of other pop songs, and it's like. I can sort of sing along to the album as I'm listening it
For the first
for the
time.
first time, which is fine. Like it's boring to me though when you're sort of halfway through the album and it's like I need a melody that kind of really strikes out and does something kind of interesting. The way that she sort of developed melodies often was chuck it up the octave and kind of get that stretch. There was one where it kind of really changed its whole melodic structure. Like instead of doing the sort of moving in stepwise pentatonic, going up a third, going down a fifth. I don't know where it is. I think it's My Tears Ricochet, maybe.
It might be something for the last episode, Beebs.
Yeah, I think so. But there was like one of these songs where it was My Tears Ricochet.
Oh, there you go.
The vocal
Song
range
on the album.
was suddenly so much bigger, and it had this like really. It stuck out to me as kind of my favorite song on the whole album because, I don't know, it wasn't constrained to like a fifth max.
I guess in that same vein, but not relating to the melodic aspect of it, she does have a habit in this album of changing the pre-chorus in most of the songs and adapting the last chorus as well, changing words. And while I really do enjoy that, and I have a big love for the last great American dynasty and its story that's through it, and I'm pretty sure it's the house she actually owns and lives in, and it's the story of the house, or at least that's the image I get from the song itself with no context outside of that. But there is that pattern where she changes the pre-chorus words or the rhythm a little bit, just to adapt that, and the same with the last chorus. A little bit of a word change and a bit of a slight melodic
It's a good
change.
formula, still a formula.
Yeah, but it's the same as the melody.
And this is the
It's a
thing, like,
formula.
personally, it irks me, but then also, like, you can just sing along to it really easily, and then, I don't know.
You're quite comfortable.
Maybe that's a great thing for some people.
So
Sometimes
you
you
said
don't need to be challenged. Sometimes you just need to be in
Yeah.
your little comfort.
That's
zone.
fine.
But I'm willing to die on the hill that I wasn't challenged, so fuck you.
Click above to find out what else we've spoken about in this theme.
Click below to support the artist that we just listened to.
And make sure to tune in next week for more Vinyl Tap.
That's pretty good.